Good morning. Good morning. Hi, hi, hi. So happy to be with you. Another Sunday morning for us. I don't know what time it is when you're watching this right now. It could be 2027. But either way, if you're watching this, say hi in the comments. Today, we're talking about liberation and liberatory practices with Marissa Price, MSW. Ew.
Yeah.
Okay. So excited to talk to you guys today about what practices Black women can be implementing into their lives that will lead them to more liberation. Because liberation isn't something I talk about a lot, but it's something that you talk about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about liberation. I talk about freedom and ease and that kind of thing, but liberation is a different perspective. So let's talk real quick about why. Oh, wait. I am not doing my good YouTube job. I'm never doing my. Let's back up a second. Marissa, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah,
Don't know you.
absolutely.
I forget that.
Yes. I'm Marissa Price. I am a social worker. I am a trauma educator, a freelance educator as well. And yeah, kind of stumbled across From Burnout to Bliss, Rashida's coaching program when I was in a very toxic, traumatic work environment. And that was kind of the pathway to Exodus Summit and realizing all of these dreams I had to travel abroad and move abroad and become a freelancer, move abroad money. Exodus Summit changed my life. So yeah, really happy to be here. Thank you. Honored.
Happy to have you. Marissa is a lovely woman who I will also be talking shit about a little bit in this video. So
Okay.
be prepared, y'all.
Okay.
I don't get to prepare, but the audience gets to prepare for that, whatever that means. All right, Marissa, let's go. Let's talk about why liberation is a key factor for you.
Mm-hmm. I think living within systems of oppression. So intersectionality is a term I've really been sitting with, coined by Kimberly Crenshaw. Just the different points of how these systems intersect and how they impact Black women is so important to understand. I think especially now when we see everything happening, to avoid internalizing the mistreatment, the harm, the abuse often that we experience, and keep it external, right, with the people who did it. That's really what liberation means to me. It's freeing yourself internally from the things that we've been taught to take on, from the pieces that we try to take off of ourselves, which we really can't ever do, right? Because we come here whole already.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a process of socialization, conditioning, that we're told these pieces of ourselves, there's something wrong with them. And liberation is really getting back to the core essence of who you are before you were socialized in these oppressive systems.
Okay, as a social worker, and I believe you have done some therapy practices. See, no,
I have
no.
not.
Okay, all right. So I was gonna
I
make that
do
up.
healing coaching, but
Okay,
no, not
okay.
therapy.
In your healing coaching, is liberation something that is frequently on the minds of people that come to you, or is it something that you have to kind of work in after a while?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is with the people who come to me. And I was just thinking about this morning. When you start coaching people,
Mhm.
and I was in the Get Your Next 3 Clients challenge with Stephanie Rashida, and that really opened my mind because I was like, when you tap into pieces of who you are and you share it with the world, it's like your people are drawn to you in this really magical way that I
Yeah.
found. So the people who resonate with what I'm sharing on my channel, which is usually how I attract clients into my business, they're already there, right? They're already on the path of liberation. It's just a matter of me providing my academic knowledge as a social worker and then my lived experience to be able to guide them along the path that they're already on towards liberation.
Okay. Sidebar real quick. I'm talking to y'all, not to Marissa. Marissa said she was in the Get Your Next 3 Clients challenge. Marissa used to be my VA.
Yes.
Part of the work she used to do before. And in the Get Your Next 3 Clients challenge, she did the homework one day, and I looked at her homework, and I was like, Marissa gonna leave me. Marissa she's not going to be my VA much longer. She's going to leave me real soon. And I swear it wasn't 6 months before she was like, I'm firing all my clients. Goodbye. I'm going on to do something. So did I help you fire me? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you did.
You liberated yourself from my place of business.
Yeah. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Thank you.
I
All
guess you
right.
could say it like that.
Backing up a bit, let's talk about where you said your people who come to you are ready. They have liberation on the mind.
Mm-hmm.
The other people, right, who are like flowing in and out of your world.
Mm-hmm.
If you can identify someone who isn't ready, that's not the right word I want to use, but I hope that gets us somewhere, but isn't ready to think about liberation, what is generally their mindset, or how can you tell whether someone is ready or not?
That's a really good question. I think if you have internalized what you've experienced, and sometimes that can show up in how you treat other people, right, too. So I think if you are with a lot of self-doubt about your skills, about your abilities, if you are tied kind of to the messaging that we receive still, that has been shown, right, are lies. Things like if you are excellent, right, if you excel, then you will be immune from mistreatment. If you are still tied to a lot of these lies that were sold, and also if you're struggling with some of the things that you've internalized and it may be showing up in how you treat other people, I think that you may not be on the path of liberation just yet. But I don't think it's ever too late, right? That's another thing. Like once you're able to put the pieces together, once you're there, once you have the self-awareness that this is something that you want to pursue, being in communities like this, I don't think it's ever too late to make that journey.
Okay, so let's back up a second and talk about when we talk about liberation, what does that in practice, how good can it get? Right?
How good can it get? I don't think there's a limit to that.
Well, like talk about what like
Yeah.
you with the people that you've coached and helped along the way, what are some of the changes they see when they start to focus more on liberation? Because it's not something that a lot of us do, right? So what are some changes that they may see over time?
I think having a deeper sense of self-trust, reconnecting to your intuition. Part of how we're socialized is to disconnect from what we come here with. We come here equipped with an intuition, right? That tells us places, people to avoid, to steer away from. And it's just a process over time, which often starts in childhood. That intuition is kind of lowered, right? And so it's like reawakening that, reconnecting to that. I've seen that transformation. And just understanding how we have literally been socialized and like put in this, Glamazini calls it like a conveyor belt, is the visual that she provided. And that's how it feels, right? We're just on this conveyor belt, step after step after step, and we're told that that's supposed to bring us happiness. And I think my clients, like through a process of coaching and working through the things that they've experienced, which a lot of us like know, if we really are honest with ourselves, that that's a lie, right? That the work that we put in doesn't necessarily show up in these things that we're told they do. It doesn't show up in respect, like in the workplace, right? We so often are harmed and mistreated when we excel. And so it's questioning those things. And then once you're able to question those, there's a freedom that exists on the other side of that when you really sit with the truth. And I think my clients have gone through that transformation I've seen.
Okay. Is that a transformation you had to go through yourself?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so tell us, how good does it get? Like, what is like liberation feel like to you?
Ooh, it feels like self-trust keeps coming up, right? So trusting in who you are and who you were designed to be. I think the lie that's told to us is that we come here as a blank slate. And I've really been sitting with that. Like, no, we already come here with the pieces of who we're supposed to be. Um, and I think for me, it's just been like getting back to the core parts of who I was as a child, which is why inner child healing is so important. Going back to reclaim those parts. So it looks like my creativity being reawakened, self-trust, authenticity, kind of like being done with facades. Like, this is just how I'm showing up today. And yeah, I think that has like a ripple effect with other people around you when we see people who are able to sit in that, right? To be on the path of liberation. We see it's possible for us too.
Okay. All right. What? What are ways that we block our own liberation?
Ways we block our own liberation. What's coming up for me is trauma.
Okay.
Trauma, yeah.
But what is it like? What are we doing with trauma where we're blocking ourselves? Because we can, like, when I think of liberation, I think about like kind of getting out of the cage, right? But like sometimes there's a cage and sometimes there's you, right? So what are the things that we can do for ourselves to show up better and more liberated in the world?
I think being open to new information.
Okay.
I think in the US, right, we're so often we have to be very closed. We have to be like shrink, right, to protect ourselves, to survive. And I think part of healing and liberating yourself is just opening yourself up little by little, because this can be a slow process. If you've had to be this way for so long, guarded to protect yourself, it's going to be a process of opening yourself up to new ideas, new information, new ways of seeing things, to begin your pathway towards liberation. So I think that's one of the first things, right? If you are very closed off, if you immediately like shut off any new idea that comes your way, just getting into a practice of being curious and allowing yourself to explore and play a little bit with life. A lot of us have to be very serious in the roles that we're in the title, the jobs that we're in. And so it's inviting in flexibility in opening your mind towards what could be possible.
Okay. And speaking of jobs, you and Dr. Kamani are hosting the 2025 Job Liberation Virtual.
Long game.
I was like, how do I start off with virtual? What are we talking about? The Job Liberation Virtual Summit. This is your second time hosting it. Let's talk about job liberation, because that's also something that when I think about job liberation, I just think about quitting. Like, because how else, right? Like, we don't get liberated inside of jobs, do we? So talk to me a little bit about what job liberation means for you in this context.
Yeah, I think it means like detaching your identity from your job. I know this was the case for me, right? My identity was like this with my job, which made it so difficult for me to leave, right? The prospect of leaving something that I had worked so hard for, that I had poured so much of myself into. I mean, the education, the internships, like the list goes on into that. It made it difficult for me to, again, see anything else because I was so closed. And it's a process of opening. So job liberation really means, detaching your identity, opening yourself up to new ways of generating income versus it has to be through a 9-to-5. It has to be through this career path. And just allowing yourself to be more flexible instead of rigid, right? We have so many speakers coming and talk about topics, how to generate income, how to utilize your skill set, how to understand that you do have skills and take ownership over them, whether you pivot into another job, freelancing, early retirement, which Halisi will be talking about. There's just so many pathways that exist, so many options that are available to us, but we're told that we only have to be, right, we only have options like 1 through 5, when everyone else has options 1 through 100. And so it's like, it's opening your mind to the different ways that you can bring in income versus it having to be so rigid as we're taught so often in the US.
So who is the ideal person to sign up for this?
I think if you are in the process of realizing that your job is not serving you, right? So you can be at the, and I talked about this on my channel, like the cycle of change, right? So you can be in the pre-contemplation stage, just kind of having that feeling like this isn't really aligning with me, but I don't know the pathway forward. So you can be in that stage. You can be actively planning your exit from a toxic work environment. I know that took me about a year to get my financial plan together, right? What I was going to do after, how I was going to pivot into freelancing. That took time. So you can be in that stage. You can have already left your job because we'll be providing like so many healing resources, right? How to get your breath back, breath work. Holding our breath is a trauma response often in these toxic environments. So any stage of the process that you're in, right? If you're just now awakening to the fact maybe that your job is not serving you, if you're in a toxic job, actively planning your exit, or if you've already left and you're still healing from the trauma that often happens in these workplaces, the summit is for you.
All right. And you did this. This is your second year doing it, right? I'm dropping the link right now to get your ticket to the summit. It's kind of long. It's kind of ugly, but go ahead and clickety clack on that anyway and get your ticket. What is different from last year's summit to this year's summit?
I think we have a better understanding of the people who are going to be in attendance. Last year, we had over 300 Black women attend globally. So now we know that this is clearly a global issue, right? Again, these systems exist globally. So of course it would be misogyny, right? Anti-Blackness. These are global issues that are impacting Black women in the workplace. And because the message is that we spend, again, so much of our time, so much of our energy in workplaces that it becomes our identity, like these issues really show up so prominently in workplaces. And so we have a better understanding of the resources and tools that people need to effectively make their exit on their timeline. So we're not rushing anyone at all. I want to emphasize that, because if you rush someone right during the process, they're going to be even more closed off to the information that you're trying to share. So this is at your timeline, right? You take it at your pace, but it is information that is there for you when you are ready to make the journey to reclaim your skill set and exit a job that's not serving you. So we have a better understanding of that this year.
Okay. And how long are the replays for? So you said the information is there for them when they want it. How long are the replays for?
For the standard pass, they are there for 3 days after the summit. So if you have a live event pop up, which we had happen last year, or if you're working during one of the sessions, you have 3 days to watch it. And then if you want the replays for a year, that is the all access pass.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Now, speaking of liberating, you went from being in a toxic work environment.
Yes,
it's fair to say, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Being your own boss. A lot of times people do that and then they become their own toxic boss. Have you been able to avoid that?
No. Nope.
Yeah, I know. I know. Okay, so what are the signs that you're your own toxic boss that you would point to?
Overworking.
Okay.
Overworking. I've had to really develop a schedule for myself, because I think after transitioning out of corporate, I was like, I'm done with schedules. Any type of schedule, like I'm avoiding completely. And that really led me actually to overworking, right? Working at all hours of the day, exhausting myself. And so I really had to set a schedule that works for me, like a flexible schedule, but still a general feel for the day that I have in entrepreneurship. Giving myself grace. I think I was really, really hard on myself when I first started as an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
Feeling like I had to get everything right, and kind of over the process of like 2 years realizing that you can't really get this right. It's a trial and error. It's a take in new information and adapt constantly. So yeah, giving myself grace. Perfectionism has shown up a lot
Mhm.
as an entrepreneur. So releasing that, trusting that my clients will find me has been a huge part of it. Um, if I am authentic and share and show up effectively in my business, that the right people will find me, and not feeling like I have to lower my prices or do any of these things, because that's not going to be sustainable long term.
Right.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I laughed when I originally, because the first year you do a summit, it's- I don't
It's a
think you
lot.
realize how bad you could be to yourself until the
Ooh.
first year do a summit.
Mm-hmm. That part.
It goes from like, love the work I do, this is so much fun, to like,
Mm.
who, who did this?
Yes.
Who did this to me? Right? Like,
Mm-hmm. Did I sign up for this?
who,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
this is not what I thought it was gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so how has but you did it 1 year, and now you're like, let's do it again. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
guessing you have found ways to be better to yourself as a boss.
Yes, I
Okay.
have.
Schedule,
Mm-hmm.
the stuff
Mm-hmm.
working, etc.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I think also realizing kind of that this path was designed for me,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
After questioning it for so long, because I have been drawn towards entrepreneurship for quite a while. But
Mm-hmm.
again, that self trust, the fear that's created in the US so often, right? That if you do this, that you don't have the skills, even though we see everybody and their mom like pivoting into entrepreneurship, but they don't look like us necessarily. And so it's like kind of rebuilding those pieces of myself to realize like, no, I can take this journey too. And it doesn't have to look like entrepreneurship is sold to us so often. That it's very hard, rigid, competitive, right? All these things that I'm trying to release from my life. Like I'm doing it in a different way, like sharing how I'm doing this in community with other Black women so that we can learn from each other on this process.
Okay. Real quick, Melanie, awesome. Thanks for joining the membership. In the Job Liberation Virtual, the 2025 Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women, has given me 2 tickets to give away. So I'm going to give them away at the members meetup immediately after this. So if you're a member,
Oh,
come to the members meetup, because I have 2 tickets to give away. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. And the information is not online right now. When I get off, I will put it online, because I'm a little behind today. Marissa knows this. Once my VA left, I haven't been able to. I'm literally never gonna forgive her for this. Not that she needs my forgiveness, not that she's waiting in the wings for my forgiveness for making the life choice that was right for her, but like, ew. Ew. No, let's talk real quick about leaving jobs and your career break and how that impacted your life. So you were working and then you weren't. Tell us
mm-hmm.
everything.
Yeah. So I was working in a toxic job. So it didn't start off toxic, as a lot of jobs don't. But then with the murder of George Floyd, the uprisings in 2020, I was asked to take on kind of a second role.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it turned out to be. That was racial equity focused. And when I tell you that role drained the life from me, trying to convince people of issues right out of grad school in this role, in a very prominent role, and having to teach myself a lot of the things that I was tasked with doing, it was a mess. And stumbling across from burnout to bliss, because I was burnt out
Mm-hmm.
after a year of doing that second role. I'm like, what is this? I didn't sign up for this, but I really couldn't see a pathway out. And that's when the spiral of anxiety, depression kind of starts, right? When you can't see a way out of what you're in, it can feel like hopeless.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what, yeah. So the power of community, I think being in From Burnout to Bliss, seeing other Black women take career breaks, which I had never heard of that term before. Working with a therapist, she ended up writing me a note to take FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act. So I took 11 weeks unpaid because of the state that I was in for a career break. And that was the first time I had to, or the chance I had to travel outside the US to Mexico City during that time off. And that changed my life. Right. And after that, I wasn't the same. I went back to the job, would not recommend. I always say that. And I think you said that during our coaching call, like, you're going back? Like, yeah. Yeah. Because the treatment got worse, right? The jealousy that the person above me was exhibiting got worse. I guess because I had taken a career break and now she was even more jealous. And so I went back to get my finances in order. And after 6 months, finally ended that job and transitioned into freelancing.
Was this at the bank? Was it a big bank or a small bank?
Big.
Big bank? I mean, big banks been discriminating against people since big banks, since the first dollar was lent. So the idea that like you would have to come in and start from scratch creating something that like they should have been had in place and should have had like hired professionals who weren't learning on the job, right? Because it was an important thing. But it also shows how much they don't actually care. And that's not to insult your skill set, but like if they really cared, that would have been a department, right? That if they really cared, they would have brought in like experts to examine the whole thing, right? But instead they can say, yeah, we got somebody doing it.
Absolutely.
It's
tokenism.
It is. At the law firm I used to work at, my first year there, we were talking about how all the Black people were leaving. Like it was we were the largest mass was us in our first year, and I think there were two of us, and everybody else was leaving. And so the firm decided that they were going to create a committee to figure out why Black people were leaving and what we could do to get them to stay, and then put us on there, and like the two of us in our first year, and it was like, how am I? Like I don't even take this like because of how you've structured it. I'm not even taking it seriously. Like I'm telling you there's a problem, and you said, "Fine, go solve it." And it's like I also have a day job, right, that I have to do, and I cannot slip on. Or you're going to compare me to other people who don't have this extra responsibility, right? If I don't get the same hours, it's not going to be like, oh, she was doing this other thing. It's just going to be she wasn't focused. She's not good at her job. But we used to like describe it as like, I would have a much better way to describe it now, but we used to back then describe it as like throwing your own surprise party. Like, yes, we want you to stay. Now you figure out how to get yourself to stay. It was kind of like, what are we even like? Just tell me you don't mean it. It's fine. You know, like tell me you're not interested in solving the actual problem. And so many of us are put in situations like that at work where like there's a problem deeply impacting us, and with no authority and no resources, we're expected to go fix it. Right? And where's the win there? Because if I figured it out and I figured out why Black people were leaving and what to do to get Black people to stop leaving, first of all, treat us like you treat the white people. Just a thought.
Start there.
Maybe a little bit less with the racism. A little bit less, right? Like even if I could point to the problem, I'm never going to get y'all to implement my solutions. And if I can get you to implement my solutions, the end result is that you may get Black lawyers to stay longer Well, you've already told me you don't care about Black lawyers staying longer because you put me a first year.
Yeah.
It's like, really, what is the end result? Where do we get to some change, some progress? And just like
So
you, I
true.
had to realize that leaving, like it felt hopeless for a while, and baby, it was the recession. So I stayed. Not. It's your time, girl.
Yeah.
Grab your shit. Here's a box. And so mine, I don't know if because it was a law firm, they did it the right way or the wrong way. I know a lot of things were done poorly. But literally, like I went by a partner's office like a day later because I had like 2 weeks. They were like, you can be here for 2 weeks. And I was like, I'm taking the bar exam in another state in a week. I won't, like, I'm leaving in a few days. So it's fine, whatever. But we're going to a partner's office, I think, to drop something off. And he saw me. He's like, I can't talk to you. I'm not allowed to speak to you. I'm not allowed to speak to you. And I was like, what?
Oh my gosh.
I literally, like, they laid off 20% of the associates. Like, it's not like I did so, right? Like,
Right.
I work in the real estate department in a time where banks aren't lending people money. I get it.
Right.
But like the whole, like, I can't talk. Like he was so burnt up about it. You could tell that it wasn't who he was, but he had been instructed. He was not allowed to even speak to me. And I was like, y'all really just don't, like, there's no humanity, right? And
That's it.
like there's a lot of workplaces that want to be family because a month before that they said we're all family, we're not laying anybody off. A month earlier, we're all family, and now it's I've been told I can't speak to you. So please, I don't know what you're doing at my doorway, but please leave.
Wow.
I'm just dropping this off. Like, here you go. Okay, bye. I didn't even come to talk about nothing. I'm just giving you, like, I have files. The files need to go somewhere. Here's a file that I know you're gonna want back. Boom, here you go. But the difference between toxic, the space between we're a family and toxic workplace is, I think, if they were a Venn diagram, it would just be a circle. The Venn diagram is a circle between toxic workplaces and we are a family here. And so a lot of times, you're right. There's no fixing it when you're inside. It's just leaving. It's just leaving.
Yeah. And that's confusing too.
Ain't it?
Right? It's really confusing with the messaging that you receive. And then you see the actions to the opposite.
You spent, so when they laid me off, I think, so I went to a thingy lawyer, an employment lawyer, and she was like, you could sue them and win, like, easily. Because they started making things up and putting them in emails. Like, Rashida didn't do blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
I wasn't supposed to do that. Girl. But they did it. Like, they laid us all off, and we had 2 weeks. I wanted the system to search my name, I think, to find, like, anything I needed to, like, get. And all kinds of emails were not behind any kind of wall. It was just like anyone who put my name in the system could see these, like, stories that were just made up. And I was like, and they were all like 3 of them all at the same time. You know what I mean? It wasn't like over time, these things. It was like in the last week, we have come up with these things. And I was like, that's so interesting that we're doing this. Because we went immediately from, they've been saying, I'm doing good work, all the things, to we need a reason to fire her. And because she's Black, we may need more of a reason.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, this is the family we were talking about, huh? This is all right. But without sounding like a fatalist, so many of us are in toxic workplaces, right? So many workplaces are inherently toxic at their core, and there's no fixing it, right? There's absolutely no fixing it. And that's why even when we create our own workspaces, right, we can be toxic as well because it's all we've ever modeled, right?
Yes.
More work is all we've ever seen as the answer to anything. Just do more work. And now you're working again. Because as an
Yes.
entrepreneur, the work never ends. There's always something that can be done. There's always something that can be done, but you get to choose when to do it if you allow yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Amina says her employer stopped putting her in committees because autonomy and money was always my solution to every problem. More money, more autonomy. A smidge less racism and sexism. Smidge. Just a little less. If I have to come here every day, a little less. All right, you mentioned From Burnout to Bliss a few times here. From Burnout to Bliss is no longer available for enrollment, but Exodus ASAP, which is our Move Abroad program, Move Abroad and career breaks. It's mostly Move Abroad, but I mean, a career break is what led you to move abroad, wasn't it, Marissa? It's what led me to move abroad. So, and then there are women in our community who don't want to leave the US full time. They just want to leave for a temporary time, but they want to get their ducks in a row. So we're doing that over at exodusasap.com. You can join us there. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Yada, yada, yada. All right. Okay. Toya Reed said she left her toxic job 3 years ago. Positioning, she's in such a healthier place, and now I can retire on my terms. Yay.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. One of the things that you said you wanted to talk about, and that I want us to talk about, I want you to talk about, is radical acceptance about who America is. Radical acceptance is something I struggle with because, like, nah. Like, that's a rotten piece of bread. You're not going to get me to accept this rotten piece of bread. Well, the fact of the matter is, the rotten piece of bread is already in my hand. I might as well acknowledge that I'm holding a rotten piece of bread. But you take it away.
I think it's important to understand the foundations of the U.S. Again, especially now, as we see a lot of folks trying to roll us back to the 1800s. There's a reason for that, right? And understanding the history of colonization and enslavement, especially as I have been studying like Black women's labor over time, as we find ourselves in toxic jobs, right? Because a toxic system creates these jobs. And that's why we find ourselves in them over and over and over again. And so it's just recognizing, right, how the country was built and how the vestiges of how it was built still show up in the workplace, in everyday interactions, in the amount of value that is placed on Black lives. It's so important. Again, to externalize the treatment that you're experiencing. There's nothing wrong with you. You are in an extremely toxic country that does not value your life because of the foundations, right? Because it was our labor that led to so many things being created, right? It would not exist without our labor, but yet they tell us that we're not valuable. How is that so? And so it's interrogating constantly the lies that are given to us, that try to break down our self-esteem, that try to tell us that we're not worthy. Really sitting with it and interrogating it and realizing the foundations. Of course, it would wind up like this. Of course, you would receive these messages, but that doesn't mean that you have to internalize it. You can still guard yourself, guard the sacred parts of yourself as you are within an extremely toxic system. I think that's important.
So, okay, but talk to me about like how we can practice radical acceptance in a situation like this.
So I think what's coming up for me is like not being surprised.
Okay.
Right?
Isn't it hard though? Like, don't you still get surprised?
Surprise. I don't know if I get surprised. I'm just like, really? Again?
Okay.
In 2025, we're seeing this cycle repeat,
Okay.
right? That has been continuing
I
for
think
some time.
for me, yeah, okay. So sabbatical starts Monday says disappointed, not surprised.
Yeah, that's a
And you're right. I think I'm not surprised. I think I'm like, I didn't think the race to the bottom would be so fast, right? I think that's what it is
That's
for me.
true.
Like, wow, whoa, all gas, no brakes, fuck it up, right? I was like,
Yeah.
you know, you can kill the country a little slower. It don't all have to be like, right?
That's true.
And so I think that's where like the lack of acceptance comes from, or like the surprise, the thing that feels like surprise, like.
Understood.
So I saw, I didn't click on the link, so if I'm wrong, y'all let me know. I saw something today that there's a Black town in Alabama that has sewage waste running into the town, and the U.S. government ordered the Alabama government to clean it up. I'm pretty sure it's Alabama. It's Alabama or Arkansas, but I'm pretty sure it's Alabama. And Trump just undid that and was like, and the DOJ spokesman was like, no, we don't do DEI, so we're not doing that. So you don't have to do that. And it's like, because the majority of people who live in that town is Black, making sure that sewage,
that's DEI.
Sewage does not flow into that town, which is an environmental catastrophe. That's deep. There's something about like how we go out of our way to treat all citizens the same. Does that mean we're going to start floating sewage into white towns? Like, those are the kind of things where I'm like, there's a world in which I'm like, yes, of course, they're not going to care about places where Black people are mostly impacted, but framing the cleanup as DEI is what surprised me, where I was like, how do we even get from you should not be living in filth? Government provided filth, right?
Yes.
And there's a way to clean it up, but we're not going to do that because it's mostly impacting Black people, and we're not going to do anything that improves the lives of Black people because that's DEI. That's oh, that surprised me. Oh yeah, that like just that that. But yeah, it says when DI means Black, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But I'm still like, it's sewage. You want people in your country to live in sewage?
Yes.
Are you not embarrassed? Like what? What that's what the other countries are already outside saying this ain't a real country. It's a project that's failing. They're saying all the things. And now you're like, live in filth. It's fine. That's what I get surprised. Like, oh yeah, that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the mask is coming off, right? Just full. Like the mask has been like plastered that we've been told.
Yes.
I don't know, all these lies.
I think
it's slipping.
What I am. I think this is the first time in my memory, short that it may be, that we've had a president that cares about his base so much and does not even care about what it looks like from the outside. I think in the past, presidents have been like, it's crazy, right? I'd love to do X, Y, and Z, but this looks crazy. And even when they do things that hurt other countries, they're still like, but it kind of makes sense. Like, if you believe what I believe, it kind of makes sense. Not like people aren't coming to visit us anymore. People not coming to our house no more because it's dirty over there, right? That's where I'm like, the radical acceptance about what, like, radically accepting who the U.S. is and that it will not change. can lead to healing, as you said, Marissa. But I feel like it's so
Mhm.
hard, because even if we haven't had any faith in the U.S. government, even if we haven't had any faith in
Mhm.
America, even if we've always known we were secondhand citizens in America,
Yeah.
second-class citizens in America, this
Mhm.
is new somehow still. Like, it's like radical
Mhm.
acceptance. I think with Biden, I had some radical acceptance. I don't like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Things I don't agree with, but like, it's America. America is always going to be
Mhm.
a project of capitalism, and we are the capital, right?
Mhm.
Now I'm like, this don't sound crazy to you? You like, it don't sound crazy that cleaning up sewage is DEI, so you're not going to do it. Huh,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Because we've been so used to the image, like you're saying, right? Projecting this
Yeah.
image throughout the world. And there is less emphasis on that. It's getting back to the really evil roots and things like that's what you want to project out there. So that aspect is new. It's a return to this reminds me of like the period of Reconstruction. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Um, I wasn't there during Reconstruction. I'm old, but I'm not that old, right? But I kind of wonder if in some
Yeah.
ways this isn't going to be worse,
Yeah.
right?
I fear. I fear that.
Because it feels like that collapse, like people, like this stock market thing, the billionaires are bleeding the country dry. We know this. We
Mm-hmm.
accept it. As people who go to work every day to make rich people richer, we accept it. It's what happens. The billionaires, the prices are going up and they're just taking more profits out. They're not giving it back to their customers. They're slowly, slowly bleeding the country dry.
Mm-hmm.
But we had to speed that up. I was like, what? We have to speed up the pace in which all of the money shifts to the billionaires, and the people who
Mm-hmm.
aren't billionaires have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It was going too slow. But what happens when we get to the end, right? What happens when we get to the end and there's no more money for the billionaires to suck up? Are they satisfied then? Right?
Mm.
Or is there some
Mm-hmm.
other resource that's not
Mm-hmm.
money they try to get, which is probably gonna be people,
Yeah,
right?
I fear that.
Owning
Mm-hmm.
people again in a few years. Because
Mm-hmm.
what you
Yes.
already have more money than you can spend in a lifetime, and you
Mm-hmm.
tank the stock market on purpose to suck
Mm-hmm.
more out. Sounds
Yes.
like this is insane. If this
Mm-hmm.
was a novel, I'd be like, y'all play too much. It's
That's
right.
true.
Like, it's never
Yeah.
gonna happen. It's
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
it's like the prequel to the Hunger Games.
Yeah. It's an
I don't
insatiable appetite. Mm-hmm.
right,
You're never satisfied. Mm-hmm.
but we are going to get to an end of the money, right?
Yes.
And I'm like, and then what? When people can't buy the products you're selling, when you have all the money, are you then like, okay, I'm done,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or is it just, I will now, these people will be more likely to enter into terrible work contracts that look like involuntary servitude,
Yes.
and I will continue to make things and sell them to people who do have money, like the just less than billionaire people. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild.
It
I
is.
I try not to think about it, but then I'm like, they do
Yeah.
things like the stock market thing, and I'm like, you was already gonna have all the money. Even if you
Mm-hmm.
just slowly, you might have fooled us into thinking that like we're safe. But
Mm-hmm.
now we know. Now
Yeah.
we know we're not safe. We're not safe.
Mm.
Alicia
Yeah.
Renisa. They can literally solve hunger. Yes. And
Mm-hmm.
homelessness. They can like
Mm-hmm.
one of them can solve hunger and the other one can solve homelessness.
Yes.
What are we
Mm-hmm.
doing?
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't take more than two of y'all.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
It
And I
wouldn't
think
take more
that
than two of y'all to do this. And you
mm-mm,
refuse.
no. And I think that constant quest for more
Mm-hmm.
is just the hallmark of colonizers, right? You're never satisfied with the amount of resources, land that you have. You have to continue getting
Mhm.
more and more. And that shows up in how we view our own lives. I feel like, especially transitioning abroad, that has
Mhm.
been a huge thing for me of resisting overconsumption
Mhm.
and constantly seeking more and more and more outside of myself to be
Right.
satisfied. Um, yeah, that's such a good point.
Yeah. There's what's your tipping point for overconsumption? Like, when are you like, oh, this is too much?
Hmm, that's a good question. I try to sit with like, ask myself, like, do I have enough now?
Okay.
Why am I, do I need more? Or is there a
Mhm.
reason I'm seeking more? Or is there a
Mhm.
reason I want to go shopping? Or
Okay.
do I need to sit with the things that I already have, um, and express gratitude for them, right?
Mhm.
Versus feeling like everything is constantly outside of myself and I have to seek and claw, because
Mhm.
that's an endless trap, because you'll never have enough. It's in
Yeah.
the same way. Hmm.
Because we were raised on this. It's got to get more. You got to get, like,
Yes.
even if we aren't trying to keep up with the Joneses want you to try to keep up with them. Like,
Yes.
that's how our society is built. There's the
Hmm.
like, if you're not in competition with me, how can I show that I'm better than you?
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so there's that constant like the I've seen a lot of people talking about the luxury bag uh factories who were in China who are now like, hey y'all, you can buy it like you the luxury bags you've been buying, you can buy them directly
Hmm.
from us. They won't have like the logo on them, but this is where they're made, blah, 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 blah. And so
Hmm.
many people are like, yes, I'm going to China. I'm getting bags. Yes, I'm going to order. How do I, like, so much I'm going to order from the factory. But it's also
Hmm.
like, were you thinking about getting that luxury bag yesterday? Like, were you, is this a, I'm a maximalist, so I don't even like, there are no limits, right?
Hmm.
But like, did you need the Louis Vuitton bag without the logo on it?
Hmm.
Or is it just because it now feels accessible to you that you're going to get it? And in a year from now, are you going to feel the same way about it? Or when you see someone with the Louis Vuitton bag with the logo on it, are you then going to be like, oh, it's not the same? Right? It
Hmm.
feels weird because obviously people are like, I'm going to go, oh, this is such a great idea. I'm going to I'm going to do the thing. I saw someone talking about how there's a Lululemon, one of the Lululemon factories was like, you can just come buy the stuff from us. And while, yes, I'm all about, screw Lululemon, right? Like, if you can get the clothes without the logo, fine. But do you actually need it? Right?
Hmm.
I
That's true.
went to Bazar Sabado yesterday, by the way. Hi, Lois, if you're watching. I met a viewer yesterday at Bazar Sabado. I went to the market, and I love a good craft market. Stuff made by hand, blah, blah,
Hmm.
blah. Love it. I'll walk through what's cute, what's going on. But in Bazaar, I haven't been to Bazaar Sabado in a while. And the entire, I want to say 2 block area, maybe 3, was just stuff for sale. Like inside, I walked inside
Hmm. Hmm.
and I walked out. I was like, it's not for me. And there was another market next door. And I was like, maybe the smaller market next door will be better. I walked to the smaller market. It was better, but it was still like, because there are people, hundreds of people outside on the street selling things. And I'm in here and there's people selling things. And now next
Hmm.
door, I was just like, I have to, like, immediately, I went down there to go to a restaurant and to see I haven't been in the market in years. So I want to see what the market was like now, what they were selling over there. And I
Hmm.
was like, I can't. So for me, I don't think it's necessarily, do I have enough? It's when I see it all at once, I'm like, oh no, I don't need anything. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
seeing other people consume in that way and
Yes.
seeing all of the things for sale, like every nothing in the park. There's a park in front. It's full of art. People are selling art. You go in here, you want spices, you want jewelry, you want tequila. it's all here. That and the fact that the market can be very focused on foreigners. I was just like,
Mm.
oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's like this is what overconsumption feels like, even without
Mm-hmm.
right. That's what I got from it. Was like it's so much all the time. But there is I will say that moving out of the US has helped me with consume less, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Yeah.
always, I'm not going to say I was ever trying to keep up with the Joneses, but the Joneses were always around in a way that they don't seem to be around as much in
Mm-hmm.
person here. What would you think? What do you say to that?
Mm-hmm. I think that's true. Yeah, I think we're in constant competition with each other in the US,
Mhm.
to outdo each other, to get the newest, greatest things. So, and there are these like holes in our self-worth, our self-image that are created, and then like we're sold the solution to them so
Yes,
often. Yeah.
yes. Um, but never like you are enough.
No. No.
So talk to me about you are enough. Like, is that something that you find, is that something that you've thought about? And if so, in your world and in the work that you do, is it something that you find Black women accept easily?
Mm. Yes, I have found that a lot in my work. And no, I don't think Black women accept that easily because of all the messages that we're told,
Mm-hmm.
that we need outside validation, which I've been thinking about more recently, with the titles, with the labels, with the accolades that we're taught, that really make us us when we already come here whole. I mean, I really just have to sit with that constantly as I'm healing myself. I came here whole. It's like no matter what external thing that I achieve, that's cool, but I was created whole as I came here. And so I think it's really a process of, again, going back to who you were as a child so often. When we had this sense of assuredness about ourselves, before we were fed the messages that we have to seek things externally, our value externally so often, and that it lies in other people's hands when really it's within you. And I think
So
sitting with that. Hmm.
I struggle with that a little bit because not all children have that same assuredness, right? A
Hmm.
lot of them aren't from being born are in
Hmm.
places where they're not getting the healthy messages, right? Like
Hmm.
it's like, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
there's often like healthy messages and then unhealthy messages, but for some
Hmm.
people it's unhealthy messages the whole time. And so they may have never been self-assured, right? They may have
Hmm.
never been able to feel like I come here whole. And then
Hmm.
like if you've never felt that, how do you get back to it?
Hmm. Hmm. And this is something I've talked about with the workshop that I did, like healing from childhood attachment wounds.
Hmm.
If you have experienced an attachment wound at such an early age, right, from like 0 to 3 is when this occurs, you are going to have this issue, right, show up often in adult relationships. Um, but I think it's returning to the essence of who you were, like before you even experienced that trauma. And I know that sounds kind of weird, like before a
Hmm.
year. Yes, because we come here like with an essence, with intuition, with all these things. And if that's not reflected back to us in our family of origin, that can be deeply detrimental to our development of
Hmm.
self. But to know that it's always possible to reclaim, even if you didn't see it modeled, even if it wasn't reflected back to you, it still exists within you, because we're always drawn towards this essence of ourselves. I feel
Hmm.
like if we really have the time and space to sit with it, the things that we're naturally drawn to, those are inherent.
Okay. Yeah. All right. What is something that you want people to think about when they think about liberatory practices that we haven't talked about yet?
Things that I want people to think about. I don't know. That's a good question. You talked about inner child healing, sitting with the fact that you're enough. I think just allowing yourself, like giving yourself compassion. That's one of the biggest things I work with my clients on, right? Not being your own worst critic, not being the harshest person in the world towards yourself, and giving yourself grace throughout this life experience. Again, especially as Black women, the way that we are socialized, the messages that we receive. It's really being kind to yourself to heal and to liberate yourself. I feel like that's kind of a core part of the pathway of liberation.
Okay. All right. So how are you kind to yourself?
I think going outside. So nature is a huge part of that, reconnecting with nature. Bringing in things that are doing things that bring me joy. So often we'll feel like joy is kind of optional in life. And it's really like a central part of life. Again, especially during these times when we see so many forces trying to strip our joy from us. That's on purpose. And so it's actively seeking those things out, the things that bring you joy. How else am I kind to myself? Going back to little me, right? Picking up the hobbies that I put down, that someone criticized along the way, getting those core parts of myself back. Speaking authentically and knowing and trusting that the people who resonate will resonate, right? And I don't have to show up and perform. Another huge issue that I work with my clients on, just understanding that you are enough. I think getting back to what we talked about, I think that's how I'm kind to myself.
Okay. All right. You work with your clients on not performing. Is that what you were? What does that look like?
So the pressure to show up as someone who we think is valuable or who other people will accept is not often like who we are intrinsically, right? Inherently, again. And so undoing the need to perform and show up a certain way. Because other people are they get the message that who you are, any way that you show up, you're celebrated. Right? That's all I saw, especially being in business school, in my finance classes, right? Being the only Black girl. I'm like, okay, these white boys are getting the messages over and over again that they deserve to be here, that who they are is enough. And I'm sitting here like questioning myself, doubting myself, right? Having test anxiety, all these really deep issues. And so just sitting with the fact that I'm no longer performing. I refuse. And the power that can be unlocked when you lean into that in a society that's constantly telling you that you're not enough, that you have to show up this way, that you have to have these things, these possessions to be valuable. Just sitting with, no, I am enough and I refuse to perform.
Okay. Are your clients often able to really embody that?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I think after a process of, again, returning to the really traumatizing events that try to strip that from them so often, and reflecting back the power of community when someone's able to reflect back to you like, no, you are powerful. No, there was nothing wrong with you in that situation. They were actually the one that was messed up. It heals parts within us, right? But now we're able to be like, oh, I can take that part of myself back on and be the fullest version of myself, an expression of myself. It does something. And so to see the journey that people have been on, as I've been working with them, again, like transitioning into coaching, it has been it's been transformative for me because always feel like as a coach, I'm also coaching like a previous version of myself too. Um, and so, yeah, that's been transformative to see.
Okay. Oh, Colette, you're in South Africa. Yay. First international trip. Another from Brown to Bliss family member. Exodus Summit. Yay. Congratulations. And we were all in LA together that one time. Marissa, do you remember meeting
Oh,
Colette?
yeah, I do. Yes, I do.
Um, small one.
Yes.
Okay, so what, as someone who works on healing,
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of different ways that you could take that.
Mm-hmm.
Why is job liberation something that you're focused on?
I think because we spend so much of our lives at work, especially in the US, there are so many wounds that show up in a job, in the workplace, because we're spending 8, 10, 12, 14 hours per day in these environments. And so if you can access your power and agency within that, right, you're kind of like a lot of things open up for you.
Mm-hmm.
So the emphasis that's placed on labor, taking your ownership back over your labor, over your skills, over your creativity, all the things that you have honed over time, and refusing to give ownership over to someone else,
Mm-hmm.
that's really a liberatory practice, especially in the US, given like the foundations of how Black women's labor has been valued or not valued, really, over a period of time.
And what are some transformations that Black women who attend the 2025 Job Liberation Virtual Summit might experience?
So we've had people plan their exit strategies. So some people have pivoted into entrepreneurship with the messages that we've received. They have taken career breaks, which again, as I shared, was pivotal to my path of liberation. They have gone to new jobs that actually value them. We've heard feedback. One woman said that the summit saved her life last year, and that really sat with us, right? Because we see the real ramifications of toxic jobs on Black women's mental health, and we see where it can lead to. So to have a safe community for people to be able to process what they're experiencing, externalize the mistreatment, reclaim the parts of themselves, right? Take their power back, which I'll be speaking about.
Mm-hmm.
That transforms like not just the person's life, but entire communities, right? Because so often we're the leaders of our communities.
Right.
And so what is the impact of that? Like it's far reaching. And this is a global issue of Black women in toxic jobs that it's unacceptable that we should just have to endure mistreatment, harm, abuse, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. When it shortens our lifespans, it leads to mental, physical health issues when not everyone receives this message, right? So no, we're not going to tolerate it. No.
While you were talking about that, it dawned on me that like the biggest two factors in my trauma in my life, right? The biggest two are, number one, work. Work is always been the thing where I'm like, if I wasn't in them terrible jobs, I would be a different person. And two, family, right? So work is number one, family is number two.
Yeah.
And we are so frequently told that those are things we need to be grateful for and we need to accept as they are, right? At least you have a job, right? Your good government job, right? Or like you should be proud of what you did to get here. And so the idea of leaving is kind of crazy because why would you leave a job that pays you well, regardless of how you're treated, right? That
Mm-hmm.
and like family, yay, everything, you know what I mean? Like everything is supposed to be great with
Mm-hmm.
family, right? We're expected, even though we know life does not work like that, the idea is still like you have a family, and so you should be very grateful for them and accept them as they are and
Mm-hmm.
as they treat you. And that's just, I think that's the why between like, but behind like personally for me, those being the two biggest trauma areas, because most other things you're allowed to be like, nah, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
That's
good.
true.
Right? Like, oh, this was an experience. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
But your job, like working in America, right? Even if it's not one job, but working and being a productive member of the workforce in America, and then being blessed to have a family are two things that
Mm-hmm. Oh, did you lose Rashida?
I did the same thing last week. My thingy's too quick.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I was gonna say that who said it? High Vibe says we're taught to endure the pains of the job and family.
Mm-hmm.
And Effrey Holding says partner number 3 is partner relationships with her. Be happy you got a man that is there. Nah, nah, right? But like, sorry, for so many of us, the partner is often part of the family that is driving you insane. But you can't leave. You can't go nowhere. Listen, you have a family, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got a family. You got to stay. You gotta make it work. And it's like, even now, we say all the time, he's a good man, Savannah. And I think the kids have forgotten that was not a good man, right? Like, he's a good man, Savannah. I know High Five knows, has been taken so far out of context that it sounds like we're actually talking about a good man. But no, it was a mother telling her daughter to stay in a terrible relationship because he's a man, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we're, as Black women, we're so often expected just to be grateful for what we have, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just be grateful
Mm-hmm.
that there's a man, there's a job, there's a family. And it wears down on you after a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not
Mm-hmm.
liberation. Being in a relationship of any kind that you don't want to be in because you feel like you have to be,
Mm-hmm.
mm, mm-mm. That's that chain around your ankle right there.
Mm-hmm. Because these like the outside pressure like disconnects us from the truth,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's where we kind of get off the path, and we start to gaslight ourselves, right? Doubt what we're feeling because this external pressure is telling us that this is something that we should want, that we should be
Mm-hmm.
seeking,
And
when
if we get,
internally we know. Mm-hmm.
yeah, getting we're close to it, we need to hold on to it no matter what it means,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good man. He's a breathing man, right? Like, let's be real. That man was breathing in some, he wasn't even breathing in the right places, right? Like his breath was going places that didn't need to go, but that was not a good man, right? But there's whether like it's, I think as a group, we've gotten better at being like, no, that is not a good man. But we haven't really gotten to the, no, that is not a good job part yet, right? Like, I think that's where we could all use a little bit of help because
Mm-hmm.
often, like you said, when you're stuck there, when you feel like you're in that spiral and there's no getting out, it feels inescapable.
Yep.
it feels so lonely, doesn't it? Like I'm
It
the only
does.
one experiencing this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was at that law firm. There was another woman with me, and it was terrible. And she
Mm-hmm.
left a little bit after I did, for the
Mm-hmm.
Black woman. And then she went back. And I was like, I don't, I don't, was it not as terrible for you as it was for um, but there's the idea that like you said before, it's you. It's not the job, it's you. It's you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
show up differently. Be more of this. Do more of
Mm-hmm.
that, and it'll
Yeah.
be different. And I think for me, the turning point was acknowledging that there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do. People do
That's
not
it.
want to see my brilliance. And so they're never going to. And so I'm wasting my time.
Mm-hmm.
It took therapy to get me there. It took my therapist to be like, girl, they sound terrible. Like, this is an uphill battle. Why are you fighting?
Yeah.
Why are you, it sounds like no matter what you do, they're never going to appreciate you. So why are you even trying?
Mm-hmm.
That's the day I quiet quit. Years before quiet quitting was the thing. Uh, but you're so right. Like I think that job liberation and learning how to accept what is actually happening and to accept who you are and showing up as you are is a practice, is an event, is a moment that can help you find liberation from other parts of your life, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Once you can see it in one place, it's easier to model in other places as well and be like, oh yeah, this is not what I want for myself. But how
Yeah.
often are we allowed to say like, this is what I want for myself,
That's the question. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
not given in like that end of year review you're doing at work when they're like, where do you want to be in 3 years? You know, there's a right answer and a wrong answer, right?
Yes.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't
Mm-hmm.
play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so how do we get to there? How do we get
Mm-hmm.
to places where we can say like, I know what I want. I know who I am. And I know who I am in multiple areas of my life. And I can claim it. I can say it. It's challenging.
Mm. It is challenging. It is. I think for me, it's been being in community
Okay.
um, with other Black women, like reflecting back to me, like charting their own paths. And so it kind of reawakens parts of ourselves that we might have shut off when we see other people doing it. Um, and if you're able to utilize that as inspiration, because I feel like so often, especially in the US, that's taught to us as go down the path of jealousy, right?
Okay.
Instead of taking the path of inspiration. No, this person is like awakening parts of myself, right? That
Mhm.
I'm interested in exploring too, right? I want to try freelancing. I want to
Mhm.
try moving abroad too. And if you're able to use that as fuel, right, as inspiration instead of the direction that we're often socialized in, um, to be in competition with other people, I think that can be a really powerful way of reclaiming what's true for you, right? Using other people as kind of a possibility model, I think
Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Joy says. So, yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I I often think back to like YouTube comments, and I think it's gotten better for me over time. I've really honed it. My audience knows I'm for them, right? Or I'm not
Mm-hmm.
for them. But maybe like 3 years ago, I was really challenged by how often I got negative comments. And not that they bothered me, but they also didn't make sense to me. And then I
Mm-hmm.
realized these are just people who want something. Okay, so like jealousy isn't like something I go back to as like an important point. Some people aren't like, jealous of me. But I
Mm-hmm.
think what I was seeing was people who don't think they can do a thing lashing
Yes.
out. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
always so interested in that. Like, instead of saying, like, oh, right, if he can run a 5-minute mile, I can run a 5-minute mile. I'm also the person that's like, I can walk on the moon. If
Mm-hmm.
they could, like, they were just short
Yeah.
white men, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's nothing, right? They ain't build the rocket. They just
Mm-hmm.
stepped outside. I could do that.
That's it.
Give me some training. I could do that, right? I'm the kind of person who thinks if it can be done by a human, I can slam dunk. I
Mm-hmm.
might need some help, some special shoes, maybe a little trampoline or something, but I can do it. If a human
Mm-hmm.
can do it, I can do it. So it's always so weird to me when I see those people who were like, "You're gonna fail," or like those negative comments that if you're on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
you'll get them eventually, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those will come. Uh, it's the way people see you, and
Mm-hmm.
instead of being like a window to
Yes.
possibility, it's
Mm-hmm.
like a mirror of failure. And I'm like,
Yes.
they don't sound boring to you all day long, just on the internet, mad, typing to people. That's not
Mm-hmm.
that's not you.
Mm-hmm.
You. Because also, like to be perfectly honest, when I see them in the Facebook groups, when I see them on the internet, when I see them around the place, I'm like, oh, these are the people who are not gonna make it outside the US. Because you can't
Mm-hmm.
function outside of a society that isn't competitive all the time. Like
Yes. It's a
you're
good
not
point.
going to
Mm-hmm.
thrive in
Mm-hmm.
a place
Mm-hmm.
where like shitting on people for no reason is looked down upon. Right? In the
Yes.
US, that's not looked down upon.
No,
You're
it's
not going
encouraged.
to right? You're not going to make it in another place. I know. I
Mm-hmm.
know you're not. First of all, I know you're not going to move. And number two, when you do move, it's not going to be for long because you're not going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
I see it all the time. I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
like the trauma that are choosing to spew externally instead of processing internally or even
Mm-hmm.
externally someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's not going to get you as far as you think it is. Right? A little bit of joy,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of like radical acceptance, like you said, a little bit of liberatory theory will get you a lot further than using trauma to like push you forward and
Mm-hmm.
on other people. Ew.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all are
Yeah. And that
uh,
question that you asked at the beginning, right? How do we block our liberation? I think that's a way too. Yeah. Of seeing people who actually inspire us if we're able to sit with the truth. Um, but going down the path of hating on them and trying to bring them down, right? They're actually showing you what you want too. The pathway that you, right, we're put here to be on too. But because we've been told that we have to be in competition with each other, right? Divide and conquer, tactic of oppression. That's real.
mhm.
It transforms into jealousy versus inspiration.
And I want to say there's no reason because there is enough on this planet, but we know the reason, right? Because
Hmm. We know.
we are in a world that's built to never feel. First of all, it's never enough. What you have is never enough. And
Yes.
two, there's the pie is only so big, right? That's what we're told all the time. The
Hmm.
pie is only so big. And
Hmm.
so if they have something nice, it means they took it from you, right?
Yes. Hmm.
And that's traumatic.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's traumatic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Sabbatical starts Monday. I see that you gifted 5 memberships. I don't thank you. I don't know if I need to do anything with that. No one's ever done that before. I didn't know it was a thing until I'm in a YouTube program this week or
Hmm.
this month, and I found out about it in a thing. I also found out that I can give away memberships, but I don't know
Oh.
how. So when I figure it out, I'll do it. Let me see if I can figure out how. The man was talking. He was like, boom, 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 boom. You do this, you do that, boom, 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 done. And I was like, that's a lot of words. Oh, okay. So you already gifted them to specific people. Okay. When I go to view everything I see, they are done. Boom. All right. Do
Oh
I know how
wow.
to do that? I'm going to figure out how to do it. I don't know how to do it now.
That's cool.
But yes, I can give memberships to the membership, which is not the point. Thank you. Sabbatical starts Monday. I'll figure out the rest later. Oh, it's a random assignment. We just learned on the Don Lemon channel. It's a random assignment. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I mean, a second gift membership this week. Okay. I don't know
That's
if this is
amazing.
doing or what, but the man said you can give out memberships, and I was like, I don't know how to do. Also, because I'm streaming through a third-party platform, I don't see all of the things that you're streaming directly. So, JM, if I can figure out how to do it, it won't be today. I got to learn. We're not going to take up Marissa's time talking about gift memberships, but if I can figure it out for next week, we will. I don't know how it works. Any hoodle, we're here. We're doing things. We're talking. I am talking about career breaks at the 2025 Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women. No, I'm not talking about career breaks. I'm actually not. I'm talking about what happens after liberation.
Yes.
I'm always talking about career breaks. I'm talking about what happens after liberation. So what if you leave a job, if you leave anything and you feel more liberated, what's the next step? Right? So I'm next step shoddy at the Job Liberation Summit for Black women. I know what I'm talking about. And that is happening. I know May
16th through 18th. Yeah.
My birthday is the 18th, and I was like, I will not be working on my birthday. And so I'm working on the 17th, but I couldn't remember if it was after or before. Yes, 16th, 17th, 18th. So what can people who attend look forward to?
So I think we now have 22 Black women speakers now, including the bonus sessions. So that is the all access pass. So there are 3 bonus sessions with Jackie Abram, who is a best-selling author of Hush Money: Strategies to Protect Your Career while you're still in the toxic job as you're exit planning. Pivoting Jobs for Black Women 50 Plus with Janice Sutherland. We have heard that is a huge issue, right, with ageism in workplaces. And so that's another bonus masterclass. And Dr. Roche will be hosting the 3rd bonus masterclass on your financial exit plan. So finances can be a huge source of fear in making you feel stuck in these really toxic and traumatic work environments. So those are the 3 bonus masterclasses that will be on the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday following the weekend summit. But the standard pass, you have access to sessions Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We are walking you through. First, Coach Yolanda will be kicking it off on Friday with Internal Freedom First, which I'm so excited about. Coach Yolanda really, so she's a spiritual life coach. She helped me heal from the toxic job that I was in, take back my power. And so she's going to be walking us through like why this is an internal process. First, you have to grant yourself permission to be free, right? To explore other possibilities. So that she'll be kicking that off. Saturday is really about reclaiming yourself. So we'll have lovely guest speakers who I see in the chat too. Alicia is one of the speakers. Reclaiming your creativity. Giovanna will be talking about breath work. I'll be talking about how to take your power back, own your skill set. Stephanie and Rashida, of course, will be on day 1, sharing their knowledge with us. And day 2 is really about making your exit plan. So we have speakers talking about how to generate income from anywhere. Krishan Wright of Blackset Global will be talking about that. Halisi Vincent of our Black Utopia will be talking about FIRE, how to start the process, the journey of financial independence, retire early, how to maximize your skills. Kim the Gems will be talking about that, the talents that you have to generate income. We have someone from Black on the Job, Rashida, which is it is a resume career coaching service specifically for Black people. And their focus is really on how do you edit your resume, because that's a huge fear, right? I'll never be able to edit my resume. And getting through that block and knowing that you have skills to be able to pivot into another job, career field is so important if you're looking to stay within a traditional work environment. And so, yeah, Liberatory will be talking about how to find remote work. So many amazing sessions over Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with the standard pass as well. And I can't hear on my end. Let me see. Did the sound go out
I
on
was
my end?
I was muted.
Oh, okay, okay.
Sorry. Let's talk about planning the summit real quick.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite topics. What is Stephanie and I always talk about how not enough people are doing this. Not enough people are doing summits. It's such a really good way to get your message out to people. But we also talk about how hard it is. It's hard.
It's so hard. It is.
Okay, so what has been the hardest part of planning this, and then what has been the most rewarding part?
I think the hardest part is just the logistics of event
Mhm.
planning in general. So making sure everyone has, because you have to be a project manager, right? You have to be customer service. You have to fulfill so many different roles over a very condensed period. So within like 2.5 months, you are wearing hat after hat after hat after hat and trying to make all the pieces fit together. So that's the most challenging part, the logistics
Okay.
of a virtual event period.
Mm-hmm.
The most rewarding part has been the impact that we've had in people's lives, and also like healing through this process. I think for both Dr. Kamani and I, like healing from the toxicity that we experienced with the information that the speakers share, because we're also learning too.
Right.
We're still very much in the healing process. And so being able to have so many amazing speakers in one place, right? That's rare and that's special. So yeah, that's been the most rewarding part. Just being able to learn from the information that's shared.
How many times last year did you say, I'm never doing this again?
I lost count.
How many times this year have you said, I'm never doing this again?
Oh, it's been a lot. It's been a lot.
Okay.
Probably 20.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that's doable, like, right? Like, so this
Yeah.
this isn't a so for my first year doing this, I realized that like it's really, really hard, but it's also really, really good.
Yeah, that's a
But
perfect way to put it. Yeah.
it's
Mm-hmm.
really hard, it's really good, but the payoff is the hard part, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the actual, is this worth my time and energy to me at the end of it, to me? Did
Mm-hmm.
I Did I make any money? Did I like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, like our first year, 7, 8-day summit,
Wow. I couldn't.
50 speakers,
I
and we made, I want to say like $10,000 a piece, and planned, and that's with sponsors because it's 2020, so sponsors reached out to us, and we started planning it in June, and it happened in like late September or early September. So June, July, August, September, 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
And over those 4 months, I think we may have been 10,000 a piece. It may have been less than that. And I was like, because like you said, when you're working for yourself, hours don't matter. Like, I don't think I made minimum wage. Do not think we hit minimum wage doing that because the amount of work. I have never been as tired as I was the week before summit. I have never in my life ever done as many. Okay, this is an 18-hour day staring at my computer. It's a 20-hour day staring at the computer all day to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's one of those things where like, whenever I see someone hit their second year, I'm like, yeah, this is it, right? Like that first year you can do it and then be like, I don't want to do that again, right? But when I see someone hit their second year, I'm like, yeah,
That's helpful.
right? Because you already know, you've already done it probably the worst that's ever going to happen, right? Like you probably you've made all your mistakes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what to do, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's that first year where you're like, whose dumb idea was this? Amina says she's doing a summit next year. Don't you already work on a summit, girl? all y'all trying to branch out and do your own things. Did nobody say this was okay? Nobody said this was okay. All right. Yeah, so summits are hard. When you guys go to them, you should appreciate that a lot of work went into this. But it's also honestly why I love when our summit, I love seeing tickets sold to people who know us, right? People
Mm,
who are already
mhm.
within our community.
Yeah.
Because when new people come in, it's so easy for them to be like, you said this was going to start at 9:00 and it's 9:01. The whole system is down.
Yeah.
Give us a minute. Give us a minute.
Mhm.
But like Stephanie says, you guys are doing a great job.
Oh,
Looking forward
thank
to
you.
it. You say next month, but that can't be true because May is not next month. There's a typo in your comments, Stephanie. Please fix that and then get back to us. Thank you. Do you feel ready for next month, Marissa?
No, no.
I'm never ready. It's really like,
No.
okay, it's happening tomorrow. All right.
Time
All
is
right.
very strange when you're doing a summit, I've noticed.
It
Right?
is.
It feels like everything is condensed and then it's like kind of having to go back and forth between long-term and short-term tasks. It's exhausting. No, I don't feel ready. I don't. But I know that we will be.
Ready or not, the day's gonna come. And that's truly how we look at it. Like,
Mhm.
oh, it's today.
Mhm.
We've done what we can. But you guys have such a great speaker lineup.
Mhm.
You guys haven't already, go to that link, get your ticket. Get your ticket with the replays because you know you're not gonna watch all the talks in 3 days. You know you're not going to. It's a weekend too. You're gonna be distracted by something shiny. We're trying to go out. The weather's gonna be kind of good. You're gonna be trying to go outside. Don't do that. Ooh, and the bonus talks. Strategies to help protect your career sounds pretty awesome.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Yeah, because while you're in it, right? Again, while you're still, because sometimes exit planning can take a while to finally get to that final day that you're there. But how can you protect everything that you've worked so hard to build?
Right.
Even if someone's trying to take it from you, right? It's like holding on to these things that you've worked, that you've earned, and just coming up with a strategy, which Jackie is really fantastic with. She's helped a lot of people strategize while you're still there.
Okay. I see on the website that the Liberation Standard Pass is $99 now. $99 now, and the Freedom All Access Pass is $299. But the price goes up when this offer expires. When does the offer expire?
So it's through April 15th, which is Tuesday. And so April 16th, it'll increase to standard pricing.
April 16th, y'all. So a month before the thingy goes live. So I just said it. I just tricked myself into saying it. Monday is a month before the summit. Then May is next month.
Yes.
All right. So get your tickets now. Don't wait. I'll be giving away 2 in the membership meetup after this. Marissa, what do they need to know about the summit that we haven't already talked about? Or what do they need to know about your practice? Or you, or your life, or your pets?
Yeah.
Give us anything.
I think that, so it'll be talking about the summit, like take your power back, owning your skills, rebuilding your self-worth. That's kind of a thread throughout my channel, throughout my coaching work. Just really how to understand that you are powerful. There are all these messages that try to convince us that we're not, precisely because we are. So it's kind of confusing in that sense, right? We kind of, again, go within, try to question, doubt parts of ourselves. But the reason that we're targeted so often is because we are so powerful. And what could be possible if you tap back in to the thing that already exists within you, right? The path that you're being led to go on. There are just infinite possibilities. And I feel like, especially Exodus Summit, having a community of Black women like unapologetically prioritizing themselves, being like, I'm a global citizen too. I can travel. All these things that we're taught to be off limits to us are not actually off limits. And it's just giving yourself that space, again, as we talked about before, like opening yourself up to the possibilities that could exist outside of what you're currently in. I think can be really powerful. So yeah, know that you're powerful.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What if we don't feel it? How can we fake it till we make it? Do you have any strategies for that?
Get into spaces with other people you admire, and whose journeys resonate with yours, who are sharing resources, tips, how they went from point A to point B, which I really focus on my channel. So it's a safe space, Marissa Price Heals on YouTube, for Black women to process traumatic experiences, things that they have been through, right? How they made it out, how they transformed their lives so that we don't have to start from scratch every single time. Because there's real power in community knowledge sharing. And I think as a social worker, just having had the opportunity to work with communities to help them like identify the places where power exists and how to tap into that, I'm always kind of going towards that. So yeah, I feel like I completely lost your question, but I hope that they answered it.
I was grabbing your YouTube address, so I lost the question too. Or whatever. It's whatever. We're talking about whatever. All right. Miss Mocha Mama says Black women are the most powerful beings on the planet. That's why we're constantly being attacked by others. Like, I don't understand. Okay, I understand. But my super rational, I understand historically.
Mm-hmm.
But why there aren't a group of humans outside waiting to pick me up so my feet never touch the ground as I traipse, you know what I mean? Like, y'all should be worshiping us.
It's true.
Because we could solve all the problems if you were willing to admit that they were problems.
Yes.
And give us some authority, right? What did we say? Every problem can be solved with some autonomy and some money. Give us some autonomy. Give us some money. We gonna solve all them problems.
Yes.
You could be worshiping us. My feet never touch the ground. And instead, y'all want to give us everything. Anyway, there's that. There's that. Black women are so powerful. And I know it's scary to others. And taking our power away helps bolster the capitalist nightmare that we all live in, right? But the fact that they don't want to just frolic in a field and eat berries all day is bizarre to me. Because, like, we could all be doing that.
We could.
We could all have our own little patch of field and be outside frolicking in the sunshine. It was stolen from us.
It was.
It was stolen from us.
Yes.
Yeah. The closest I get to that is my walk from my home to the metro station I use. It feels very frolicky for some reason. There's a lot of like graffiti on the walls. It's very safe. There are plants. There's nature. It just feels like I'm outside. I'm in a field. No, everyone's doing their own thing. They're dogs. They're humans. Somebody's over here on the side. Whatever. We're all doing our own thing. But it's like in this moment, we're all here in the park. We're all just here, just hanging out. I want more of that. And instead, we get Capitalism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We get dirty sewage being piped into people's cities.
Yes.
And then no clean water also, because why would you want clean water?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So we've talked about how job liberations can lead to other liberations.
Mm-hmm.
If I was your client and I was coming to you and I did not feel liberated, but I didn't know how to put it into words, what are some of the first things you would do with me?
Huh. I would start by kind of probing into the experiences that you've had.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because those are the sources of where our power was extracted from us. And so I take coaching like in a very gentle way, like over time, knowing that, again, if you rush someone through a process, they're not going to be willing to change because we have a natural like defense mechanism. When someone tries to push us quicker,
Mm-hmm.
then we're ready to go. Right. And so it's just trusting that in time throughout the coaching relationship, it will evolve. Right. But I would start by asking just more about your experiences. And I provide my clients with different exercises, again, being formally trained as a social worker. So going back into that knowledge base, um, and also like leaning more into intuition. So if I notice you mention something about a past experience, I might ask a few deeper questions, right? To go a little bit deeper. How did that impact you? How might that still be showing up in your current life? Did this person say this to you? And it's kind of, it may be on repeat in a track, which happens so often, right? We internalize other people's voices throughout our lives, and then it becomes like a repeating track that's not even our own. But now we're adhering to someone else's voice that may have criticized us, said that we weren't enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so the process of liberation is really like being clear about who said that and then uprooting it from
Okay.
yourself and knowing that you have the power to do that. You don't have to continue just letting the reel play on repeat. You can press stop and uproot it and come back into your own voice. And that process is really, I don't know, reclaiming. It's a reclamation of self.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Before we get out of here, what haven't we covered that you want to cover?
I don't know. I'd love to ask you just about your journey of starting from burnout to bliss, because I'm always curious about that. What gave you the inspiration behind that?
Okay. So I started doing career break coaching because people reached out to me and they're like, what you did seems cool. I want to do it too. And I was doing that one-on-one for free.
Mm-hmm.
But I know someone's going to say, I wish it was still free. You don't. Every business owner knows free is like a disaster zone. You can't stay there. So I left that. And then I think I started listening to a lot of like online business gurus. And I realized that like one-on-one worked, but a group coaching program would allow me to help more people and open up more space on my calendar. I was very intentional about how I did it. When my very first iteration of Burnout to Bliss, we met weekly for 12 weeks. And I will tell you, there were 2 people in it, and one person dropped out like, I want to say like 3 weeks in. So just me and one other person. And I think it's because meeting every week for 6 weeks it was too much, right? There's an amount of processing and letting go of things that you need to do when you're thinking about moving abroad, when you're making these plans. And if you're thinking about selling your house on April 1st, on April 8th, you're still thinking about it, right? If it's not entered your head on April 1st, you have not made a big change by April 8th. You have not made a big change by the 15th or 22nd. But if we meet once a month, right, I spread it out to once a month, and there was a lot more time in between for people to make progress, I could help people. And group coaching is 9 times out of 10, I think group coaching is better than one-on-one. You have some, like, unless you have some immediate need, like my group coaching is once a month. So if you can't make it this week or this month, or you need an answer today about something, then I think group coaching is often better, especially if we're all facing similar issues, right? So my community has been for Black women who want to move abroad or take career breaks. So do I sell my house is a repeated question. What about work is a repeated question. Can I come back to my old job? So many of these are repeated questions that I can give you my take on, but hearing from another woman about what she experiences as she was doing it is, I think, where a lot of the progress happens, right? A lot of the progress isn't happening because I said something, because I say things all the time. I say things every Sunday here. Half of y'all not even listening to me. It's fine. It's fine. I love y'all all the same. But when they have paid to enter the program and to sit there, they show up and they listen to each other, right? And they bring support to each other. It's one of the things I really love about both Exodus Summit, the community, which I'll drop a link for, although I think all of you are probably already in here. Wait, I'm trapped. My drop a link thing isn't working the way I want it to. Community. Dropping a link for this, our Facebook group, because it's the first time I really saw the power of community, right? Like the Facebook group is when I was like, oh, if you put the right people in a room together, they don't really need you, right? Our Facebook group doesn't really need us because they're always like there for each other and supportive in a way that doesn't require us. We don't get a lot of, I'm just gonna call them bad people. We don't get a lot of bad people, right? And so we don't have a toxicity that's in a lot of other Facebook groups. Same thing for ASAP. It's a smaller community. The most amazing thing happened this week for Exodus ASAP. One of our members went to the Philly consulate to get her thingy, to get her. This is our paid membership where we do coaching every week. We did a movie night the other night, so we could watch whatever movie. We watched one movie together. We all watched it in the language, or did subtitles in the language that we're learning, because it's for language learning. That's cool. Nice. So it was fun. But anyhow, we do coaching. A lot of women in there have gotten their residency. There's a group of us right now trying to get Jamaican citizenship together. It's community makes it go farther. So we started talking about group coaching, and from Right to Bliss. But the thing that's in common with all the things I've done is that there's a community aspect, because the community aspect takes you really far. What I was saying about Exodus ASAP this week is that one of our members went to Philly to get it. She started randomly talking to a Black woman who was in the consulate for residency as well. They're both Exodus Summit members, but they're also Exodus ASAP members. So they're in there talking, and the guy to process them was like, come on back together. Y'all seem to know each other. Come on back, and process their applications together.
Oh, wow.
It's just there's community, but there's also community, right? And the community care that's shown in all of these spaces is what makes them really magical and makes them work. It's why when, little secret, if I see you acting up in other Facebook groups, I'm gonna take you out of Exodus Summit. Because you're not gonna do that over here. You're not gonna stomp in my house in them muddy boots, right? So if I see you being foolish somewhere else, I'm about to be like, oh, delete, because the community doesn't require a lot of us, because it's really good people who want the best from each other. So if I see you in other places not being a good person who wants the best for other people in your community,
Mm-hmm.
beloved, it's time for you to go. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But Black women, the way Black women care for Black women, when we are given the space to, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we're not, when there's no competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
When there's no limited resources, the way that, even when there's
Mm-hmm.
competition resources, we're still there for each other. But to
Mm-hmm.
see it blossom in a space where, like, you want to move to Canada? I would never do that. But here's a resource I heard about. You know what I mean? Like the fact that
Yes.
we can still be there for each other, even when we don't want the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
is really, really important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how From Burnout to Bliss kind of started. I thought the group coaching aspect would be good, and I do much prefer it to individual coaching. I don't mind individual coaching, but there's magic in group coaching that I'm not magical. Put together a room of Black women though, and the magic is there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that is what we're doing. Amina says Exodus ASAP. Is that girl? She really is. And shout out to Danielle and I believe Erica for being in Philly together and doing the thing. Um, there's so much space for us to succeed in whatever it is we want, right? And that I
Mm-hmm.
think we don't think about enough, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like I need to do this one thing, and that's all I'm focused on. Being in community helps you realize that, like, we're all swimming in the same direction together, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There are no sharks here. We're
Mm-hmm.
just swimming. We're like a pod of whatever those fish are that are always around dolphins. We're just swimming together, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we're fine, and it's cool. And I might go this way, and you might go this way, but like we're still in community. That's where the magic happens, being in community. And that's why things like your summit
Mm-hmm.
is really helpful because women can have revelations together that they might not have been open to having by themselves, right? Like doing the work all about, so I took a Spanish class um, in October. Group class, fine, whatever. I did a
Mm-hmm.
class online in January and it was just me. And one-on-one is hard. One-on-one was so much harder because
Yeah.
like, oh, I have to read this aloud, and then I have to read this next thing aloud, and I have to do this next thing aloud. I'm the only one working. I did not sign up to be the only one working.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where's my community, right? So I think
Mm-hmm.
like a summit, you get to be in community with other people who are having other revelations, and will create a safe space for you to have your revelations too. So
Yes.
super
Mm-hmm.
excited to see what comes from it this year, and to be a
Mm-hmm.
speaker. Ooh,
Yes. I'm
yes.
excited. And can I
Um,
say there are also privacy considerations,
I was gonna, yes, thank you.
because because some of these matters are sensitive, and we know surveillance in toxic jobs is very real. So if you are worried about that, there will be no attendee cameras allowed, and you'll also have the option to change your name within the summit platform if you want to attend completely anonymously.
Okay. So they won't be seen on camera. And if they want to be like Pinky McBrain, they can do that.
Go for it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do you like this Pinky McBrain? I want to know who it is. Genius name. Don't know where it came from. All right. Yeah, I think that women are going to leave that summit with their lives changed. And it's we don't often get to think about liberation, right? We don't
Mm-hmm.
often
That's
get
true.
an opportunity to say, like, this is something that can free you. And no matter what anyone says in 2025, freedom is always right, right? Freedom,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
core individual, not individualism, but individual freedom is
Mm-hmm.
always the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be hearing a little while why it's not. I know it. I know probably by May, we're going to be like, oh, okay, wait. So backing up a second, talking about job liberation.
Mm-hmm.
saw last week that that man was talking about pausing the deportation of some of the field workers so that like the farm workers, so that the farmers wouldn't suffer and they could get their crops picked. And I was like, am I the only one who hears this? Or
Yeah.
is this slavery? Like, is this
Yeah.
slavery? I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I hear if the choices are
Yes.
you get deported
Mm-hmm.
or you work on this farm,
Mm-hmm. That's it.
is that
Mm-hmm.
slavery? Is that
Mm-hmm.
because now the
Yeah.
farmer don't have to pay you what he can pay you whatever he wants now.
It's true. Mm-hmm.
And are you even going to be able to keep that money if you get it? I was like, I heard it. I was like, pausing deportation so that they can work in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Don't that sound? I was like, the people writing this didn't hear. No one in the news
Mm-hmm.
heard slavery when they said those words together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. So we may be hearing soon that individual freedoms. Well, we're already hearing individual freedoms generally aren't important
Mm-hmm.
because you don't need to be a foreigner to be deported. You can be a citizen too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they can't find you.
Mm-hmm.
But we are backing into slavery so quickly. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's going to seem like, oh, that's not a big deal. It's going to be a big deal.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Kim said, he said, farmer workers and hotel workers. So I was like, that's,
It
you
is.
get
It's the
deported
foundations.
or you come to work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That sounds like, I
Mm-hmm.
said, oh, okay, well.
Yeah. Because they depend on our labor and then they tell us that we're worthless. It's like, well, how are both of those true? How are both of those true?
How are we, if we're taking jobs, or if the foreigners are taking jobs, and that's why we need to deport them, where are the people who wanted these jobs? Where are the people who wanted the jobs? Why aren't they doing the farm work and hotel work?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think I have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Anyway, when y'all are all saying the Chinese national anthem and saluting that flag, just let me know how it goes. I hope to be in my underwater submarine by then. I don't know how I'm getting out of here.
That sounds nice.
Woo! Yeah, it's a wild, not, I think the nonsensicalness of it is what surprises me. How the stuff like it does not make, like, you
Mm-hmm.
said that out loud and thought it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
We gonna break China? China? You don't feel silly saying that? You don't feel silly saying we gonna break. There are countries that the United States of America can break. There are countries it has broken.
Yes.
It might have had a chance of breaking China 70 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
China today? Woo! Start learning your Mandarin, y'all. Yes. Anyway, we've talked about all the things. All the things. But yeah, slavery's coming, y'all. Slavery's, if your choices are to get deported or to work, you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If it was illegal for you to be here, they would just deport you. But they need you here.
They do.
And they're not going to pay you. I bet you they're not going to be paying minimum wage.
Mm-mm.
They're paying some substandard wage, and they're going to have an excuse for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they do work with people, they're going to get somebody else to work in the field.
Yep.
You're going to other farm laborers and hotel workers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can't send them all away and still have the services and the level of support that you have right now. You have to choose one.
Mm-hmm.
Or a third option, which is homegrown slaves.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's not what we can talk about. We're talking about job liberation, but I want them people to be liberated from their job, from their slave job. Then prison's gonna be full of Black and brown people doing slave labor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Leaving the US. Honestly, we're talking about job liberation. Leave your job, leave the country.
Mm-hmm.
I wish all Black women would just leave the US.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not gonna happen. Definitely not in my lifetime. But I wish you would all just leave.
Yeah.
It's what's next for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get in an accident one day. It's not even gonna be your fault, but you're gonna get hauled off to jail and then you're gonna be on a work farm. Because the person who hit you in the accident is not going to look like you.
Yep.
And if two people have different stories and one is Black, you know who's not believed. Get out.
Mm-hmm.
Get out. Listen, I'm gonna wrap it up, but the distance between you and a work farm is shorter than you think.
Yeah.
It is much, and it's getting shorter every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting not cleaning up sewage because it's in a majority Black city, and that would be DEI. It's just creeping open. It's just creeping open the door. I read that they removed some books from one of the naval academies,
Yeah.
like books about the Underground Railroad, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But they left in Mein Kampf. And I'm like, y'all spend all this time talking about you're rooting out anti-Semitism when the anti-Semitism is coming from inside the house, right? Like, it's right. You left Mein Kampf on the shelf, but you are deporting people for having ideas that you say are anti-Semitic, and those ideas are just not true. Stop murdering people is now anti-Semitic. But Mein Kampf. You know what? I don't even say anymore. Leave. All right. Anyhow, leave your job, quit your job, quit that relationship, quit the US, quit all the things. What else is there to say, Marissa?
Liberation is within reach. I think it starts within, right? That you have the ability to liberate your mind from this is so important during this time, from the messages that we're receiving. As you spoke about, like history, right? It goes in cycle, which is why I'm a student of history, like studying what has already happened in the past to give me like a sense of what's to come, and what's to come is not pretty. Right. So I think being real about that, but always recognizing that whatever is happening externally, you are internally powerful and you always have the power to liberate yourself.
Yes. Yes. And at the same time, liberation is not going to be easier in 2026 than it is in 2025. It's not going to be easier in 2027 than it is in 2025. So if you're telling yourself, I just have to survive the next 2 years and then I can do whatever I want, think about how that we're seeing the race, like breakneck speed race to the bottom, nosediving, right? Just plummeting. It's not going to get easier, right? It's not going to be like, oh, passports are not going to be easier to get if you need a passport to vote, right?
That.
There's things are not going to get easier for you. So liberation is within reach. Start reaching for it today. All right. And one of the ways you can reach for it is to go to the Job Liberation Summit. Boop, boop, boop. Link is there in the comments. Kay says we don't have 2 years. We'd be like, if we have one. I don't know what's going to, listen. I don't know what the US is going to look like in a year. But I wouldn't be surprised if you had a doctor bill that you didn't pay fast enough, a medical bill you didn't pay fast enough, so now you're on the work farm. Right. I wouldn't be surprised if you were caught speeding and now you're on the work farm. Or like you were caught speeding and you've been receiving some social security, some social service, but now you don't get it anymore. Right. Something like the goal is to take out as much as possible from the people, from the government. And you gotta do what you can do.
Yeah.
It's your time. All right. Job Liberation Summit, May 16th through 18th. I'm there. Marissa's there. Dr. Kamani's there. Stephanie's there. Alicia Renice is there. Lots of people are going to be there talking to you about how you can get liberated. So show up. All right. I think that's it for our time. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you. Wait, I'm going to remember who this was in a minute. Thank you, Sabbatical Starts Monday, for gifting the memberships. I'm going to figure out how to do that soon. We're going to do this. And if you're coming to my membership meetup, which will start in about 10 minutes, I want to say, I'll drop a link inside of the membership on the membership page. So you'll have that, a Zoom link. I'll be giving away 2 tickets to the 2025 Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Marissa, for being here. You're a gem.
For having me. Thank you.
I'm still mad at you, but I say one day I'll get over it, but I think by now I will never. I'll be bringing this up.
I do.
85. I'm like, remember that time? You were so amazing to work with, and then you were like, nah, I'm good. I got other stuff going on. Forever. All right. Bye, y'all.